She told me, "My ex will be here whenever I say so, and you'll just have to live with it." I told her, "Not under my roof." That weekend, I came home and found him scooping my protein powder, calling me a visitor in my own house. Now, the only place they're welcome is in police records. Hey Reddit, so I learned the hard way that when your girlfriend says her ex is still like family, what she really means is you're about to end up living with three people: her, him, and your own growing sense of rage. I thought I was just dating Carly. Turns out I was in a full-time relationship with her baggage. And the heaviest piece of it was a guy named Fred who didn't understand the word ex. I'm Kyle, 30 male. And this whole thing is about the dumbest mess I've ever put myself in. I was dating this girl, Carly, 28 female. We'd been together for 2 years, living together for 6 months. On paper, it looked like a win. She was pretty. She had that magnetic personality where every room seemed to light up when she walked in, and she could make even a boring Tuesday night feel like something out of a movie. I'm not gonna lie, I thought I hit the jackpot at first. The first couple months were smooth. She was funny, affectionate, and yeah, she had that girlfriend experience down pat. She'd make breakfast sometimes, drag me out to social events, brag about me to her friends. I remember thinking, okay, this could be long term. But there was always this shadow hanging around. His name was Fred, 27 male, her ex. And before any guy even asks, no, I didn't miss the red flags. I saw them. I just thought I could outclass him by ignoring it. Big mistake. Carly gave me the classic lines early on. Fred and I go way back. We've got too much history to just cut him out completely. He's more like family now. So, if you've ever been in this position, you already know what those excuses mean. For the guys who haven't, let me translate. My ex still hangs around like a bad smell, and I'm too weak to shut it down. At first, I told myself not to overthink it. I'm not the jealous type, and I've always hated those dudes who freak out every time their girlfriend's phone buzzes. You know the ones, sweating bullets at a group dinner because some guy from work liked her photo on Instagram. I wasn't going to be that clown. So when Carly would get a late night text from Fred or hop on a quick call, I brushed it off. She'd roll her eyes and say, "Relax. He's just checking in." Checking in turned into always around. Guys don't accidentally orbit like that unless they're testing doors to see which one's unlocked. I should have deadbolted the social door right there. But you know, for a while I did relax. But here's the thing about letting little stuff slide. It adds up. Fred had this weird habit of just happening to be around. Like, we'd be at a bar with friends and boom, there's Fred. "Oh, I didn't know you guys came here." Right. Like it's totally normal for your ex to show up at the same dive bar at the same time every other weekend. Then came the group settings. Friends hanging out, game nights, whatever. It was like Fred had VIP access to Carly's calendar. The guy would slide into the seat next to her, laugh at all her jokes like she was auditioning for a comedy special, and throw out these little comments like, "Remember when we used to come here?" Stuff only meant for her ears, but loud enough for me to catch. It wasn't subtle, it was marking territory. Guys don't say "I remember when" for nostalgia. They say it to remind you there was a time before you, like he's senior staff and I'm the intern. Carly, of course, shrugged it off every single time. "That's just Fred." She'd laugh like I was the crazy one for noticing. That laugh wasn't clueless. It was a reset button. Every time I raised it, she'd hit the laugh, and the topic got tossed like a penalty flag. Picked up, no foul. That's how small stuff becomes normal. Meanwhile, I'm watching this dude orbit her like a lost planet, trying to get pulled back into her gravity. And she was letting it happen. I let it slide because I thought Carly was worth it. I thought she'd eventually draw the line herself. I told myself I didn't need to waste my energy on some washed-up ex. That was mistake number one. Fred wasn't just hanging around. He was testing boundaries. And Carly? She was either too blind or too selfish to care. Then came the night where the mask slipped. Carly and I were sitting in the living room, just a normal weeknight, when she looked at me dead serious and said, "Fred will be here whenever I say. So, and you'll just have to live with it, we have long history." Now pause right there. Any guy reading this, imagine your girlfriend saying that with a straight face. Like her ex is just going to be chilling in your living room, putting his feet up on your coffee table because she says so. That's not just a red flag. That's the parade float, the marching band, and the fireworks display all at once. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because the audacity was insane. Then I told her flat out, "No, not happening. Not. He doesn't come in my house. You want to see him? Fine. Coffee shop, park, bus stop, wherever. But not here." She stared at me like I'd just kicked her dog. "You're being ridiculous, Kyle. Fred's part of my life, If you can't accept that, maybe you're not cut out for a serious relationship. I smirked. Serious relationship? Carly, you're trying to turn my apartment into a timeshare. That's not serious, that's stupid. Her arms crossed. Wow. You're really gonna act threatened by a guy I dated years ago? That's pathetic. Threatened? I laughed. No, see, I'm not threatened. I just don't let leftovers eat at my table. She scoffed, her voice rising. You're so controlling. You want to decide who I can and can't see. Wrong again. You can see whoever you want. Just not from my couch while they're holding my remote. Her face twisted. You're twisting this to make me the bad guy. Like I did something wrong. Did something wrong? I said, leaning in a little. You're literally inviting your ex into my home and then acting like I'm the problem for noticing. That's not a relationship, Carly. That's a circus. And Fred's your clown. Her eyes narrowed into slits. God, you're such a jerk. Do you ever hear yourself? You sound paranoid? Paranoid? I tilted my head. Nah, paranoid is putting tinfoil on the windows. This is just me setting boundaries. You wouldn't know what those are if they smacked you in the face. She threw her hands up. God, you're acting like some landlord instead of my boyfriend. I smirked. Funny, because right now you're acting like a tenant who stopped paying rent but still wants perks. That shut her up. Her lips pressed into a thin line. Finally, she stormed off to the bedroom and slammed the door like a teenager grounded from Wi-Fi. I sat there on the couch, shaking my head. At the time, I thought I'd shut it down. I thought she'd cool off and realize I wasn't budging on this one. But here's where I underestimated just how messy Carly really was. That wasn't the end of it. Not even close. That was just round one. And Fred? He was only getting started. So, it was a Saturday morning, the kind of morning you plan to do nothing but enjoy the peace you earned. I'd just gotten back from the gym, drenched in sweat, headphones still in my pocket, thinking about a hot shower and maybe some gaming. I open the door, step inside, and instantly feel my stomach twist. Fred, on my couch, feet on my coffee table, remote in his hand, shaker bottle in the other, full of my protein powder he'd just scooped out. He grinned at me like I was the guest in his place. Hey man, he said casually. Carly said I could hang out. That's when my brain did that record scratch thing. Imagine walking into your own apartment and finding the one guy you specifically banned sitting there like it was his second home. My name's on the lease, my money pays for everything in that place. And yet here he is, looking way too comfortable. I glanced toward the kitchen, and sure enough, Carly's in there making coffee, like this was a completely normal Saturday, not even pretending to look guilty. What the hell is he doing here? I asked, loud enough to cut through whatever little fantasy world they were living in. Carly barely looked up. Relax. We're just catching up. In my apartment? With my stuff? Fred leaned back even further, smirk glued to his face. Don't be so uptight, dude. You're acting like you own the place. That line almost broke me. Almost. I do own the place, I shot back. My name is on the lease, my furniture, my bills. That protein shake you're drinking? I bought it. You're merely an unwelcome visitor. Fred smirked bigger, like he thought he was clever. Funny. Carly told me I was family. You're the visitor. Now, it wasn't about the protein powder. It wasn't about the couch. It was about disrespect. That little line was a direct shot at me, and Carly just stood there, letting him say it. Not defending me. Not shutting him down. Nothing. I stared at Fred, voice flat. Get out. He stood slow, like he thought moving in slow motion made him look tough. He set the can down on the table, smirk never fading. All right, chill. I'll go. But you can't keep me away from her. And with that, he walked out, still trying to have the last word. The second the door shut, I turned to Carly. What the hell was that? She crossed her arms. That was you overreacting. He's my friend. And you embarrassed me. Number that was you disrespecting me. I told you he wasn't welcome. I was crystal clear. And you still brought him in. That's not a friend, that's you choosing him over me. You're being ridiculous, she snapped, rolling her eyes like I was the one losing it. At that point, I realized this wasn't about Fred being some harmless friend. This was about Carly refusing to respect me. She wasn't oblivious. She wasn't caught in the middle. She was choosing sides, and the side wasn't mine. That night, she grabbed a blanket and slept on the couch, facing away from me like she was proving some point. The irony wasn't lost on me. Fred had been there that morning, and now she was staking out the same spot like it belonged to her ex's ghost. The week that followed was nothing but tension. Carly gave me the silent treatment like she was waiting for me to apologize. Doors closed harder than normal, cabinets slammed louder than necessary, and every move she made screamed, "You're the bad guy here." I wasn't apologizing. I wasn't budging. She wanted me to cave, to say, okay, fine, let Fred hang around. But that wasn't happening. I kept myself busy with work, stayed late at the office, hit the gym harder, ran errands longer than I needed to. Not because I was avoiding her. I just didn't feel like rewarding her nonsense with my time. Coming home felt like walking into a cold war. And honestly, it was easier to just cut down the hours I had to listen to her passive-aggressive silence. But while I was staying steady, I could feel the storm building. Fred wasn't the type to back off. The smirk, the comments, the way he looked at me like he'd already won. It was clear this guy wasn't satisfied just being around. Carly had cracked the door open for him, and he was looking for a way to kick it wide. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't the last time I'd come home to find Fred where he didn't belong. This was only the beginning. A couple days later, I come home from work. Long day, traffic sucked, and all I wanted was to kick off my boots and relax. I open my apartment door, step inside, and instantly notice something off. Shoes by the door. Not mine, not Carly's. Big, ugly sneakers that looked like they belonged in a thrift store bin. Then I see a jacket hanging on the coat rack. Again, not mine. My stomach tightened. I walk further in, and there he is. Fred, sitting on my couch like he'd signed a lease. Feet up on my coffee table. Remote in one hand, flipping through channels like he was searching for his favorite soap rerun. I stopped in the doorway. Unbelievable. I throw you out once, and here you are again like a stray dog. Get the hell out before I call the cops. He looked up, calm as ever, smirk plastered across his face like it was glued there. Carly said I could crash here for a bit. Her mom's place is crowded. You've got plenty of room. She even gave me a spare key, man. Said it'd be easier this way. Carly was in the kitchen, the one who opened the door for him. He didn't use any key to get inside. She'd unlocked the deadbolt herself. That's when the blood in my head started to pound. Not only was Fred in my apartment, not only was he sitting there acting like he owned the place, but Carly, my girlfriend, had handed this clown a spare key to my home without even telling me. She what? I snapped. And like clockwork, Carly steps out of the bedroom, arms crossed, casual as can be. Relax. It's temporary. He just needs a place to stay until he gets on his feet. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Number absolutely not. He doesn't live here. He doesn't stay here. This is my home. And I never agreed to this. Fred leaned back even further, smug as hell. Look, man, you can fight it all you want, but she invited me. You kick me out, you're kicking her out too? I clenched my fist so hard I heard my knuckles crack. I wasn't even mad in a yelling way anymore. I was calm, stone cold. Good. Both of you can leave. The room went quiet in that heavy way where even the fridge hum sounds loud. That wasn't a threat. It was a policy. No one is above it. Carly's jaw dropped like I'd just committed some crime against humanity. Then she exploded. You're unbelievable. He has nowhere else to go. You're really this selfish? This isn't selfishness, I shot back. This is basic respect. You don't give out a key to my apartment behind my back. That's not just disrespect, that's betrayal. Fred stood up slow, puffing his chest out like he thought we were about to square up. Careful how you talk to her. She deserves better than some control freak who's threatened by a little history. I stepped right up to him, inches away, voice low and steady. You need to leave, right now, or I call the cops. We locked eyes for a second. His jaw tightened, and I thought he might swing. Instead, he muttered something under his breath, grabbed his jacket, and stormed out. Carly, though? She stayed, only to pack a bag. She threw clothes in like she was auditioning for a reality TV tantrum, slammed drawers, made sure every move was loud and dramatic. Then she stormed out too, slamming the door behind her. For the first time in weeks, the apartment was quiet. I thought maybe that was it. Maybe she'd cool off at her mom's, realize she'd crossed a line, and this nonsense would be over. But nope. 2 days later, while I was at work, my phone buzzes with a notification from the Ring camera. Motion at the door. I pull up the feed. Guess who? Fred, standing there, fumbling with a cheap copy to my place. It didn't work. He only had a knob copy Carly made. I always keep the rekeyed deadbolt locked, so it was useless. He tried for a solid minute, then started pounding on the door, yelling Carly's name. After 10 minutes of failure, he stomped off, frustrated. The second I got home, I called a locksmith. By the end of the night, every single lock was changed. I wasn't about to give this guy another shot at breaking in. Sunday night, Carly shows up. She tries her key. It doesn't work. She pounds on the door until I open it. What did you do? She demanded. I changed the locks, I said flatly. Fred doesn't live here, and now neither do you. You don't give out keys behind my back. Her eyes went wide with fury. You had no right. I had every right. My name is on the lease, my bills, my furniture, my home. You crossed the line. She shook with anger. If you don't let him back, then I'm done. I stared at her for a long moment. Then I stepped aside. Then you're done. She gasped like I just stabbed her. You're really choosing this over me? No, I said, voice cold. I'm choosing peace over chaos, boundaries over disrespect, sanity over insanity. Her face went pale, then red. She snatched her bag off the floor, stomped down the hall, and slammed the door so hard it rattled the frame. I leaned against the counter, finally breathing. It hit me then. This wasn't just about Fred. This was about Carly showing me who she really was. Someone who'd hand over my key to another man, then act like I was the problem for not bowing down to her rules. And the thing is, I wasn't broken up. I wasn't sitting there devastated, wondering how to win her back. I was pissed, sure, but more than that, relieved. Because for the first time in months, I knew exactly where I stood. She picked Fred, and I picked myself. Normally, that should have been the end. Breakups suck, sure, but usually you walk away, block each other, and move on with your life. Not Fred. He wasn't built to move on. He was built to linger, like a bad smell in a room you can't air out. The first wave hit 2 nights later. I'm sitting on the couch, enjoying the rare sound of silence, when my phone buzzes. Unknown number. The message? You didn't win this, you made a huge mistake. I roll my eyes, delete, and move on. 10 minutes later, another text from a new number. She'll always choose me over you. Blocked. That set the pattern. Over the next week, I blocked at least half a dozen numbers. Same tone every time, same fake tough guy energy. The guy must have been downloading burner apps just to keep it going. It was pathetic, like watching someone try to look intimidating while tripping over their own shoelaces. Then came the knocks. 2, 3 in the morning, fists hammering on my door like he was delivering a pizza from hell. I'd sit up in bed, already knowing who it was. By the time I pulled up the ring feed, all I'd catch was his back as he walked away. Same hoodie, same stomping stride. He wasn't even trying to break in. He just wanted me awake, wanted me annoyed. A few days later, he added a new trick. I woke up one morning and found a folded note shoved under my door. It just said, "You can't erase history." No signature, no handwriting analysis needed. Fred was trying to be deep, but it read like a fortune cookie written by a stalker. And it didn't stop there. The next night, I came down to the parking lot to head to work, and there he was, leaning against a lamppost near my car, pretending to be on his phone. I didn't acknowledge him, just walked right past, got in my car, and drove off. But the camera on the dash caught him in the reflection of the windshield, watching me the whole time, eyes locked in like I owed him rent. He even left a voicemail once. Came from some random number, robotic voice distortion, like he thought he was in a crime thriller. You think you can win, but you already lost. It would have been scary if it wasn't so laughably dramatic. I saved it, of course, because by then I was collecting everything. I made a folder on my desktop. Timestamps, screenshots, audio files, ring clips. If it wasn't nailed down, I saved it. Not because I planned to win a fight, because I planned to avoid one I couldn't win. Every text, every voicemail, every knock on the door, stacking receipts like I was preparing a legal case. And the thing is, I wasn't rattled. I wasn't scared to leave my apartment or looking over my shoulder every second. I was annoyed. That's all Fred was. An annoying mosquito buzzing in my ear. Creepy? Yeah. But deep down, I knew he was playing a losing game. He wanted me to lash out, to lose my cool, to engage. I wasn't giving him that satisfaction. I was calm, steady, and patient. Then came Friday night. Long day at work, traffic sucked. I just wanted to get inside and crash. I turned the corner to my apartment, and there it was. Spray paint. Ugly red letters splashed across my door. Game over. A neighbor poked his head out, saw the door, and just shook his head. I emailed the property manager the clip before I even called the cops. Paper trails talk louder than outrage. For half a second, my stomach clenched. But then I smirked. Because I already knew. The camera had him. I pulled up the feed on my phone, standing right there in the hallway. And sure enough, Fred, hood up, spray can in hand, looking directly into the lens like he wanted to be caught. He shook the can, sprayed my door, stepped back to admire his artwork, and walked off. That was the dumbest move he could have made. Up until then, he'd been playing in the shadows, trying to rattle me with petty stunts. But with that one act, he turned everything into solid, undeniable evidence. So I did the one thing he didn't expect. I called the cops. I filed a report, handed over the texts, the voicemails, the note, the footage, everything. The officer didn't brush it off either. He took it seriously, wrote it all down, asked questions, and told me they'd follow up. For the first time, it wasn't just me versus Fred's nonsense. It was on record. By the time I hung up the phone, I wasn't angry. I wasn't stressed. I was calm. Fred thought he was in control, thought he was making me lose sleep, but all he'd really done was hand me the rope he was going to hang himself with. It didn't take long for that rope to tighten. Within a week of filing the report, I got a call from the officer I spoke to. They'd reviewed the evidence, the texts, the voicemails, the ring footage, even the little fortune cookie note Fred slid under my door. It was more than enough. They were moving forward. Just to let you know, sir, we'll be serving him papers for harassment, trespassing, and criminal mischief. If he makes contact with you again, call us immediately, the officer said. I thanked him, hung up, and for the first time in weeks, I actually felt relief. Not just because Fred was getting what he deserved, but because I knew now it wasn't just me versus him. It was me with the law on my side, and Fred fumbling like an idiot. The next day, I got to see the fallout firsthand. I was leaving for work when I noticed a police cruiser idling near the entrance of the complex. Two officers were talking to someone in the parking lot. And yep, you guessed it. Fred. Hoodie half-zipped, arms flailing, trying to argue his way out of reality. I couldn't hear everything, but I caught enough. He kept repeating, "She invited me. She said I could be there. He's just jealous." The officers weren't buying it. One of them pointed at a clipboard, and the other gestured toward my building. I didn't stick around to watch the whole scene, but I did catch Fred's face when he spotted me walking to my car. Pure hatred, like I'd ruined his master plan. I gave him a little smirk and kept walking. By the time I got home that night, he was gone. Later, I learned he'd been officially served and told to stay away from me, my apartment, and my workplace. And then came the calls. Carly, of course. The first one started with screaming. "You didn't have to go that far. You ruined his life." "No," I said, calm as ever. "He ruined his own life. I just hit record." "You could have talked to me first," she snapped. "Talk to you? You gave him a key to my apartment. Conversation ended there." She sobbed, shouted, accused, then tried to guilt-trip me. I hung up, blocked her. But Carly wasn't done, not even close. Over the next week, she tried every trick in the book. Showed up at my building once, pounding on my door until a neighbor threatened to call the cops. Sent long emails about how I never understood her bond with Fred. Even tried to spin it like I had broken her trust. The desperation was almost funny. Almost. But the real entertainment came from the way her world started shrinking. Word travels fast in friend groups, and Carly's drama with Fred had been dragging on long before I entered the picture. People were already tired. Now that Fred had police reports hanging over his head, most of them finally pulled the plug. One of her old friends, who I still occasionally talk to, filled me in. Honestly, we warned her. We told her Fred was bad news years ago. She just wouldn't listen. Now she's stuck defending him while everyone else moves on. Group chats went quiet for her. Invites dried up. People don't love being extras in someone else's chaos trilogy. Her family wasn't much better. From what I heard, even her mom told her flat out, "You can't keep blaming everyone else. Fred is toxic. He's dragging you down." But Carly didn't want to hear it. She doubled down, told them all they didn't understand, and kept running interference for Fred like she was his PR manager. Meanwhile, I was living like a king in my own space again. No stomping, no slammed cabinets, no ultimatums. Just me, my couch, and the sweet sound of nothing. But Fred wasn't smart enough to stay quiet. Even after the cops served him, he still couldn't help himself. He'd drive past the building slow, like I wouldn't notice the same beat-up car circling the block. One night, he even tried calling me again from a blocked number, leaving another garbled voicemail about how I'd regret messing with him. I sent it straight to the officer handling my case. "Keep it coming," I said. "He's making your job easier." A week later, Fred was arrested. The charges stuck. Criminal mischief for the spray paint, harassment for the texts and voicemails, trespassing for trying to use the key Carly gave him. Nothing earth-shattering, but enough for probation, a record, and a restraining order that kept him 200 feet away from me and my building. When I found out, I cracked open the fridge, grabbed a soda, and toasted to myself. Peace. Finally. Carly, of course, lost her mind. She called me from a new number, crying, screaming, calling me every name she could think of. "You destroyed us! You destroyed him! You never loved me!" I let her rant until she ran out of steam. Then I said, "No, Carly. I loved myself enough not to let you and your little sidekick run my life into the ground." Click. That was the last time I gave her any oxygen. Over the next few weeks, I watched from a distance as the circus folded. Carly's friends kept their distance. Her family stopped covering for her. And Fred? He was too busy dealing with probation and mandatory check-ins to keep harassing me. I'd walk into my apartment at night, lock the door, and actually smile. No smirk on the couch. No extra shoes by the door. No drama waiting in the kitchen. Just quiet. And the thing I realized most? Peace wasn't just the absence of noise. It was the absence of people who thrived on making noise. And once Fred and Carly were out of the picture, that peace became addictive. I'd wake up, make coffee in silence, sit on my couch, and feel a kind of calm I hadn't realized I'd been missing. No doors slamming, no texts buzzing at midnight, no fake ultimatums hanging over my head. Just quiet. But people like Carly never disappear clean. It was a Sunday night. I heard a knock on my door, checked the ring feed, and there she was. Carly, eyes red, holding a bag of takeout from my favorite place, looking like she wanted to play the nostalgia card. I opened the door just enough to stand there. "Can we talk?" she whispered, her voice cracking like she'd rehearsed it in the mirror. I shook my head. "No." She blinked, like she couldn't process it. "No? Just like that?" "There's nothing left to say," I told her. "You picked Fred. You defended him. You handed him my key. That's not something you come back from." Her lip trembled, eyes watering up like she was trying to put on the performance of her life. "I made a mistake. I just didn't want to lose him as a friend." I actually laughed. "You didn't lose him as a friend, Carly. You lost me as a partner. And you don't even see the difference." Her face twisted, like she wanted to argue, but she couldn't find the words. After a long pause, she shoved the takeout bag into my hands, like that would change anything. "You're cold. You're heartless." "Yeah," I said, nodding. "To people who hand out my keys like Halloween candy?" "Absolutely." That's when she snapped. Her eyes went wild, and she stormed past me into the living room, knocking over one of my chairs. She grabbed the potted plant by the window and hurled it against the wall, ceramic and dirt exploding everywhere. Then another, and another. It was like watching a toddler throw a tantrum, except this toddler was 28 and destroying my stuff. "Are you insane?" I barked, stepping back. She was screaming, half words, half noise, stomping through the place like she wanted to erase me one plant at a time. My neighbors were already peeking out into the hall. I pulled out my phone, calm as ever, and dialed. "Yeah, I'd like to report property damage in progress. Ex-girlfriend going berserk. Apartment 302, thanks." When she realized who I was calling, she froze for half a second, then shrieked even louder. "You're seriously calling the cops on me?" "Of course," I said flatly. "You and Fred can finally be partners in crime. Literally." That one broke her. She went red, stomped toward the door, and slammed it hard enough to rattle the frame. 10 minutes later, 2 officers showed up, took statements, and logged the damage. I showed them the ring footage that caught her meltdown from the hallway. They just shook their heads. That was the last time Carly ever showed up at my door in person. The cops logged the damage, took pictures of the broken pots, and added it to her file. A week later, I found out she'd been hit with a misdemeanor charge for property damage. Nothing heavy, but enough to put her name on paperwork she couldn't wiggle out of. A couple of her friends found out too, and from what I heard, they were done covering for her. Even her mom told her flat out she needed help, not excuses. Fred, on the other hand, didn't have the option of showing up. The restraining order kept him away. I'd get the occasional update through mutual acquaintances, how he was stuck doing community service, how his probation officer was breathing down his neck, how even some of his old buddies stopped hanging out with him because they didn't want to deal with his drama. Basically, he'd burned through every last safety net he thought he had. And here's the thing. Carly and Fred eventually ended up back together. A mutual friend told me, "Yeah, they're officially a thing again." At first I laughed. Then I realized it made perfect sense. They deserved each other. 2 people addicted to chaos, tangled up in their own dysfunction, feeding off each other's mess. Perfect match. Meanwhile, my life? It got better, quieter, stronger. I started dating again after a few months, but this time I was sharper about what I wanted. No Fred situations, no family excuses, no drama addicts. That's when I met Rachel. We did a non-negotiables chat on date 2. Took 10 minutes. No drama, no debate, no footnotes. Adults can do that. Rachel wasn't flashy. She didn't have Carly's wild energy. She had something better. Stability. She respected my space. She asked before bringing people over. She didn't have a lineup of exes who are like family lurking in the background. She worked hard, had her own life, her own goals. And the crazy part? That normalcy felt revolutionary after Carly. First time she came over, she actually paused at the door and said, "You mind if I bring a friend next week?" Totally your call. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it hit me how rare that was. Carly had handed out keys behind my back. Rachel was asking permission to bring someone over. Night and day. Our relationship wasn't fireworks and drama. It was calm. It was respect. It was peace. And peace, after everything I'd been through, felt like luxury. Sometimes, late at night, I'd sit on my couch with a soda in hand, flipping through channels. And I'd remember Fred sitting there months ago, smirking like he owned the place. And I'd smile. Not because I missed any of it, but because I realized how far I'd come. Fred thought history gave him permanent access to Carly's life, and by extension, mine. Carly thought love meant letting her ex invade my home and disrespect me. They were both wrong. Love without respect is nothing. History without boundaries is poison. I chose boundaries, and it saved me. Now, every once in a while, someone who still keeps tabs on Carly will ask, "Hey, you ever think about giving her another shot?" I just laugh. Why would I downgrade? Because that's what it would be. A downgrade. Going from peace to chaos, from respect to betrayal, from quiet mornings to cops at my door because someone can't control their temper. No thanks. The best part? Knowing Carly and Fred are still out there, probably fighting, probably dragging each other through the same circus they tried to drag me into. Let them. They belong in that mess. Me? I've got my own life, my own space, and a girlfriend who doesn't treat boundaries like suggestions. And the thing I realized most? Sometimes the best revenge isn't shouting, fighting, or trying to win. It's just closing the door, refusing to let the circus in, living your life in peace while they burn their own down.